We will continue our review of the operations of arithmetic by looking at multiplication. Today we will look at the basic concepts of multiplication. In the next lesson, we will discuss the properties of multiplication, followed by a review of multiplying fractions and decimals. So let's get started. Multiplication is simply repeated addition of the same number. So in this case, we have the number 5, and we're going to add it 2 times. So we have 2 groups of 5. So this is like starting at 0 and adding 5 2 times. And we end up with 10. Notice that when we multiply 2 positive numbers, we end up with a positive number. We can also do this with negative numbers. Here, we are adding -2 to itself 3 times. So we have 3 groups of -2. So starting at 0, we're going to add -2 once, twice, and 3 times, ending with -6. Notice that when we multiply a positive times a negative, we end up with a negative. So now let's look at -2 times 5. So in this case, we still have 2 groups of 5, but then we're going to take its inverse. So we start at 0, and we add 5, and then we add another 5, and we get 10, and then we take the inverse or opposite of 10, and we end up with -10. When you multiply a negative times a positive, you end up with a negative. Finally, we have -3 times -2. We still have those 3 groups of -2. So starting at 0, we go with -2, -4, -6. We end up with -6. And then we take the inverse of -6. The opposite of -6 is 6. So a negative times a negative ends with a positive. So what are the rules for multiplying real numbers? So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to multiply those 2 numbers without their signs. Hopefully this grid looks familiar. We've got our 12 times 12 timetables. If you haven't put this to memory yet, now's the time to get started. You could probably skip the ones. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2. But maybe spend a week, and each week learn one of these times tables, or learn the one that you don't have memorized yet. And in just 11 short weeks, or even less, you can have this memorized. You can get this table anywhere online. I took it from the Mometrics website. I like this in particular because it highlights those perfect squares. 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 5 is 25. Being able to recognize perfect squares on site will come in handy as well. So once you've multiplied those 2 numbers without their signs, then take a look at their signs. If the signs are the same, then the product, the result of multiplication, will be positive. If the signs are different, so you're multiplying a positive and a negative number, then the product will be negative. Quick vocabulary review. We have discussed this in the previous lesson, but with multiplication, you multiply factors. So a factor times a factor, and the result is a product. Both these terms, factor and product, are frequently used, and so they do need to be put to memory. So let's practice a few. Now with these 3 problems, the answer is going to be on this grid. So 5 times 4, you should know by heart. And that's 20. So the answer here is 20. But our signs are negative and positive. Signs are different, so that's -20. With the second problem, we have 7 times 5. Again, we have that memorized. That's 35. Signs are the same. They're both negative, so the answer is positive. Positive 35. And then we have 12 times 3. That's 36. The signs are different, so the answer is negative 36. Now we have two more difficult problems. The answer is not going to be on this 12 by 12 grid, but we will still use this 12 by 12 grid to get the answer. So let's start by multiplying the two factors together. So we have 26 times 13. 3 times 6 is 18. Drop down the 8, we carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Then we'll put a 0 here in the 1's place, because we're now in the 10s. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. And then we add. That's 8, 13, carry that 1. We have 338. Signs are the same, so it's positive. Negative 26 times negative 13 is 338. So now we have 132 times 151. So 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. 0 in that 1's place. 5 times 2 is 10. 0 goes here. Carry that 1. That's 15 plus 1 is 16. Carry that 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. And then in the 1's and 10's place, we'll put a 0. Now we have 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 1 is 1. And then we'll add all this up. We get 2, 3, 9, 9, 1. So we end up with 19,932. Signs were different, so this is negative. Now, is it common that you'd be multiplying these 3-digit numbers together without a calculator? Maybe not. You'll probably have a calculator available. But being able to multiply numbers by hand without technology, that skill is still important to continue practicing and improving. Let's look at an application problem. Here we have a hot air balloon, and its altitude changes at a rate of 15 feet per second. What is the change in altitude of the hot air balloon after 30 seconds? Okay, so we have our hot air balloon, and it's going to rise 15 feet every second. So after 1 second, it went up 15 feet. After another second, it'll go up another 15 feet. Second later, it's gone up another 15 feet. Another second goes by, it went up another 15 feet. So after 1 second, the change was 15 feet. After 2 seconds, the change was 30 feet. After 3 seconds, the change was 45 feet. After 4 seconds, the change was 60 feet. And this process will continue. And the goal was to find out what was that change. What was its difference in altitude from its start to its finish? And we can continue this for 30 times. We can add 15 to itself 30 times and we'll get the correct answer. But multiplication is fast addition, and so we can do it faster with multiplication. So we have 15 feet per second times 30 seconds. So we'll do 15 times 30. Looks like we have a 0 in the 1's place, so let's bring that 0 here. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So 15 times 30 is 450. It's positive 15 feet, And time is positive, so the answer is 450 feet. Now, we're not going to discuss this in detail for a while, but I purposely set this expression up this way. I have 15 feet per second times 30 seconds. Now we can rewrite 30 seconds like this, 30 seconds over 1. And then when we multiply, and we'll review remultiplying fractions in a bit, seconds cancels out. We have a second on the top and a second on the bottom, leaving us with feet. And our answer is in feet. It's a good way sometimes to check the final result. The units will also cancel each other out as needed. If you do the math on the units, you should end up with the correct units as well. A great way to learn is to practice on your own. We will discuss in a bit, but go ahead and pause your screen and do these 4 problems. So for the first one, we had 11 times 9 to start with. That is in our 12 by 12 times table, 99. The signs are different. You have a positive times a negative, so the result is negative. For the second one, 13 times 21 is 273. Signs are different, so the result is negative. And then we had 246 times 54. Again, that came out to 13,284. The signs were the same. They were both negative, so the answer is positive. Okay, so in this one, our helicopter is changing altitude at a rate of negative 19 feet per second. That negative implies that it's going down, it's descending. What is the change in altitude of the helicopter after 8 seconds? So we have our helicopter. And it's, after 1 second, it goes down 19 feet. After another second, it's another 19. After another second, it's another 19. And we want to know, what is this change from start to finish? Again, we can add 19 8 times. But we're going to do multiplication instead, and we're going to have negative 19 feet per second times 8 seconds. So 19 times 8. 9 times 8 is 72. Put the 2 here, carry the 7. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 7 is 15. So the answer is 152. We were descending. And we're multiplying a negative times a positive. So this would be negative 152 feet. So the change in altitude from start to finish was negative 152 feet. Once again, we can kind of check with our units. Let's put this over 1. The seconds would kind of cross out, leaving us with feet, and that is our answer. Continue practicing multiplying real numbers, and I'll see you in the next video.